My name is Cordell George. I'm a public historian. I grew up in Cincinnati, and I attended NKU for my bachelor's and my master's degree. Well, I had actually learned about the Pullman Porters in college when I was working on my bachelor's degree. So the Pullman sleeping car was invented and designed by a man named George Pullman. And interestingly, Abraham Lincoln, after he was assassinated, rode back on a Pullman sleeping car. So that's how far back it goes. George Pullman initially sought after African American men, many of whom were might have been ex-enslaved, and the reason that he sought black men was because they typically had a more subservient position to whites during that time. I think of a double-edged sword when I think of the Pullman Porters. On one end, it meant a rise in economic stability. For the first time in history, blacks were able to send their kids to college. They were able to get heavily involved in the American political arena. The Pullman Porters were the first African American trade union, which was organized by A. Philip Randolph. A. Philip Randolph would then go on to actually begin the first March on Washington in 1940. A man named E.D. Nixon, who's responsible for helping to organize the 1955 Montgomery bus boycott, he was actually a Pullman Porter. Thurgood Marshall, his father was actually a Pullman Porter. But on the other end, it meant long hours, really hard work, sometimes humiliating work. Sometimes Pullman Porters were expected to be referred to by just the name George, after George Pullman, and couldn't complain about it. And what I wanted to express here with this exhibit is what it would have been like being on a Pullman sleeping car. So we have a couple artifacts here from actual Pullman sleeping cars. Not really an artifact, but the picture here behind me, it's an advertisement, and it says Cincinnati, Hamilton, and Dayton Railroad. And it has a picture of a Pullman Porter providing service to two gentlemen on the Pullman car. It looks like they're dining. And the reason I love this picture is because it's actually, the artist is trying to depict an actual factory in Hamilton, Ohio, which is not too far from here. I worked on this exhibit as part of a class working on my master's in public history at Northern Kentucky University. In this class, working on my master's, our job was to bring diverse exhibits and just bring diverse ideas to the forefront. So our job as students, we were just asked to think how we can bring a diverse experience to this museum, and the Pullman Porter was on the top of my mind. So I actually brought this to them, and they said, let's go with it. This museum highlights the transportation industry, and Cincinnati for a long time was like a hub of the railway system. So this actual area had a lot of Pullman Porters. In 1920, the Pullman Porters actually were the largest employer of African American men. And from using Kenton County census data, I was able to find that there were over 30 African American Pullman Porters just in this county. And we actually didn't end up wrapping this project up in the semester. So myself and a couple other students, we actually committed some time over the summer, and we finally were able to put this together with the help of our program director, Dr. Hackett, over the summer. So it took a lot of time. We had to go to hardware stores. Artifacts in this exhibit were loaned from the Railway Museum of Greater Cincinnati. So we had to make a trip there, build partnerships with the Railway Museum. So it was a big effort. It's important to keep stories like this uh, in circulation so that kids know what came before them. Um, and I think it's really important to highlight stories like this and to not let them die out.